Am I the a-hole for exposing my roommate's lies after she tried to steal my job opportunity? Hey everyone, I need to get this off my chest because I honestly don't know if I did the right thing anymore. Half my friends aren't speaking to me, my Instagram DMs are a war zone, and I've been stress eating cookie dough straight from the tube for the past week. So here we are, I'm Emma, 26F, and until very recently I lived with my roommate Maya, 27F. We'd been living together for 3 years in this tiny but decent apartment in the city. For context, rent here is absolutely insane. We're talking $2,400 a month for a 2-bedroom that's basically the size of a shoebox. But it was in a good neighborhood, close to the subway, and splitting costs made it bearable. Maya and I met through my coworker's girlfriend at a birthday party. I was desperately searching for a roommate after my previous one got engaged and moved in with her fiancé, leaving me with about 3 weeks to either find someone or eat the full rent myself. Maya had just moved to the city for a new job and was staying in an Airbnb while apartment hunting. We grabbed coffee, hit it off immediately, and 2 weeks later she was moving her stuff in. Honestly, for the first couple of years, it was great. We weren't best friends or anything, but we got along well. Similar taste in TV shows, both reasonably clean, respected each other's space. We'd have wine nights occasionally, cook dinner together sometimes, and genuinely seemed to support each other. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized tech company, and I was grinding away trying to build my career in graphic design. Here's the thing about my career, it's been a struggle. I graduated from a decent design school 5 years ago with a mountain of student debt and big dreams. Reality hit hard. I took a job at a small marketing agency making barely enough to cover rent and ramen, doing soul-crushing work designing Facebook ads for mattress companies and email templates for insurance brokers. Not exactly what I'd envisioned when I was pulling all-nighters in design studio classes. But I kept working on my portfolio. Every evening after work, every weekend, I'd be at my desk working on passion projects. Branding concepts, editorial layouts, experimental typography, anything to keep my skills sharp and showcase what I could actually do given the chance. Maya knew how important this was to me. She'd see me hunched over my laptop at midnight, would bring me tea sometimes, ask how my projects were going. I'd been applying to senior designer positions for months with no luck. The job market was brutal. Every posting had hundreds of applicants, and without the right connections or big-name companies on my resume, I kept getting passed over. It was demoralizing, but I kept trying. Then, 2 months ago, everything changed. I got an email from a recruiter at Design Co. If you work in design, you know this company. They're responsible for some of the most iconic branding of the past decade. Tech startups, major retailers, even a few Super Bowl campaigns. Getting a job there would be career-defining. The kind of place where you could work for 3 years and then write your own ticket anywhere in the industry. The email said they'd come across my portfolio online. I'd been posting work on Behance and Instagram religiously, and wanted to know if I'd be interested in interviewing for a senior visual designer position. Would I be interested? I literally screamed. Maya came running out of her room thinking something was wrong, and I showed her the email with shaking hands. Oh my God, Emma, this is huge, she'd said, giving me a hug. You're going to nail this. You've been working so hard for something like this. We spent that evening celebrating with cheap champagne and Thai takeout. She asked me all about the company, what I knew about their work, what the role might entail. I showed her their portfolio, gushing about campaigns I admired. She seemed genuinely happy for me, asking thoughtful questions about what I'd say in the interview, how I'd present myself. Over the next week, I prepared like my life depended on it. Because honestly, it kind of did. This wasn't just another job application, this felt like the opportunity. I researched the company obsessively, studied their design language, prepared a presentation showcasing my best work and several original concepts I thought would align with their aesthetic. One of my ideas was this whole rebranding concept for sustainable fashion companies. I'd noticed Design Co. had been moving into the eco-conscious space, and I developed this complete visual system, color palettes inspired by natural dyes, typography that felt organic but modern, photography direction that highlighted craftsmanship. I must have spent 40 hours on that presentation alone. Maya was incredibly supportive throughout all of this. She'd worked in marketing long enough to know how to interview well, and she helped me practice my pitch. I'd run through my presentation in our living room while she sat on the couch giving feedback. Maybe slow down there, she'd say, or, that transition feels abrupt, try connecting it better. She helped me pick out my interview outfit, assured me I didn't sound as nervous as I felt. The night before my first interview, she made me dinner and gave me a pep talk. You've got this, Em. They'd be lucky to have you. Just be yourself and show them what you can do. I went into that interview feeling as confident as I've ever felt. And it went amazing. I met with the creative director and 2 senior designers. They loved my portfolio, asked insightful questions, and seemed genuinely excited about my sustainable fashion concept. The creative director even said, this is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we're looking for. When I left, they told me they'd be in touch about a second-round interview within the next couple of weeks. I floated home, called my parents, called my best friend from college, and of course, told Maya everything. She wanted to hear every detail, who I'd met with, what they'd asked, how I'd answered, what they'd said about my work. I was so excited that I didn't think twice about telling her everything. Why would I? She was my roommate, my friend, someone who'd helped me prepare. They specifically loved the sustainable fashion concept, I told her. The creative director said it showed I understood where the industry was heading. And they asked if I'd done any work with emerging tech companies trying to establish their brand identity, and I mentioned that pitch I developed for that AI startup. Remember, the one I showed you last month? The one with the geometric patterns and the gradient color system? She asked. Exactly. I told them about how I'd approach making cutting-edge technology feel approachable and trustworthy through visual design. They seemed really into it. We talked for over an hour about every aspect of the interview. She asked about the office space, the team dynamics, what kind of projects they were currently working on. I told her everything I'd learned. Looking back now, I can see that she was gathering information. But at the time, I just thought she was being a supportive friend who was genuinely interested in this huge opportunity in my life. The next 2 weeks were torture. I checked my email obsessively. Every notification made my heart race. Maya kept asking if I'd heard anything, telling me not to worry, that these things always took time. Then, finally, I got the email. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Dear Emma, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us. We were impressed with your portfolio and enjoyed learning more about your approach to design. However, after careful consideration, we've decided to move forward with another candidate whose experience more closely aligns with our current needs. We'll keep your information on file for future opportunities. Best of luck in your career. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I must have read that email 10 times, looking for some hint of what went wrong, where I'd messed up. I'd been so sure after that interview. The creative director had literally said I showed innovative thinking. How could I not even make it to a second round? I was devastated. I called in sick to work the next day and spent it in bed, alternating between crying and staring at the ceiling. Maya knocked on my door around lunchtime with soup and sympathy. She sat on the edge of my bed and told me that sometimes these things just don't work out, that it wasn't a reflection on me, that the right opportunity would come along. I know it hurts now, she said, but you're so talented, Em. Something else will come up. Maybe even something better. I appreciated her trying to make me feel better, even if it didn't really help. I let myself wallow for a few days, then tried to dust myself off and keep moving forward. Back to the daily grind at my soul-crushing job, back to working on portfolio pieces in the evenings, back to scrolling through job boards hoping something else might spark that same excitement. About a week after the rejection, I noticed Maya seemed to be in an unusually good mood. She was dressing nicer, leaving earlier for work, staying out for happy hours. When I asked if anything was going on, she just smiled and said work was getting more interesting. I didn't think much of it. I was still too wrapped up in my own disappointment to pay close attention. Then, 2.5 weeks after my rejection email, I was procrastinating at work by scrolling through LinkedIn. You know how it is. Other people's career updates are either inspiring or depressing depending on your mood, and I was in a let me torture myself by seeing everyone else's success kind of mood. That's when I saw it. Maya's profile, updated 1 hour ago. Excited to announce I'm starting a new position as marketing coordinator at DesignCo. Looking forward to contributing to innovative campaigns and working with such a talented creative team. Hashtag new beginnings, hashtag marketing, hashtag career growth. I stared at my screen. Read it again. Then again. My hands started shaking. DesignCo. She was going to work at DesignCo. The same company that had rejected me 3 weeks ago. The same company I'd spent hours telling her about. The same company where I'd interviewed for my dream job. And she'd never mentioned she was applying there. Not once. Not during all those conversations where I'd poured my heart out about how much I wanted that job, how perfect it would be for my career, how devastated I was to get rejected. I immediately clicked on her profile to see more details. The position had been posted 3 weeks ago, right around when I'd had my first interview. The job description talked about coordinating between creative teams and clients, developing marketing strategies, and contributing innovative ideas to campaign development. My brain was spinning. This had to be a coincidence, right? Maybe she'd applied on a whim and gotten lucky. Maybe she didn't realize how weird it was that she never mentioned it to me. Maybe, but the more I thought about it, the less coincidental it seemed. All those questions she'd asked about my interview. The detailed conversations about DesignCo's clients and projects. Her interest in my presentation concepts. I couldn't focus on work for the rest of the day. I left early, claiming a headache, and went home. Maya wasn't there yet. She'd texted earlier saying she was getting drinks with work friends to celebrate her new job. When she finally came home around 9 p.m., slightly tipsy and cheerful, I was waiting on the couch. Hey, she said brightly. Did you see my LinkedIn post? I was going to tell you in person, but I was so excited I just had to share. When did you apply to DesignCo? I cut her off. Her smile faltered. A few weeks ago? There was an opening in marketing and I thought. When exactly? I don't remember the exact date, Emma. Why does it matter? It matters because I interviewed there. For my dream job, and you never once mentioned you were applying there too. She set her bag down slowly. Okay, look, I know this might seem weird, but it's not like you got the job, right? And it was a completely different department. Marketing versus design. It's not the same thing at all. But you never told me you were applying. We talked about that company for weeks and you never once said, hey, I'm actually applying there too. Because I didn't want to make it weird. You were so excited about your interview, and I didn't want you to feel like I was trying to compete with you or something. So you just, what? Applied in secret? Started working there without telling me until you'd already accepted the job? She crossed her arms defensively. I didn't plan it this way, Emma. The job posting came up, I applied, they called me for an interview, and I got the job. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but I'm allowed to pursue opportunities too. There was something in her tone that made my blood boil. This defensive, almost condescending attitude, like I was being unreasonable for being upset. You're right, I said slowly. You are allowed to pursue opportunities. But don't you think it's incredibly shady that you helped me prepare for my interview, asked me a million questions about the company, let me show you my entire presentation, and then never mentioned you were applying there yourself? I was being a supportive roommate. You're twisting this into something it's not. Then when did you apply, Maya? Just give me a straight answer. She hesitated. I think it was. Maybe the week of your interview? I'm not sure. The week of my interview. So right after I told you all about the company and how much I wanted to work there. Emma, you're being paranoid. This isn't some conspiracy. Sometimes people apply for jobs at the same company. It happens. But I wasn't paranoid. My gut was screaming that something was very wrong about this entire situation. After Maya went to her room, I sat there for another hour, going over every conversation we'd had about Design Co. And the more I thought about it, the more pieces started falling into place in a way that made me feel sick. I needed to know more. I needed to know exactly what had happened. I have a connection at Design Co. Well, kind of. His name is Jason, and we'd met at an industry networking event about 6 months before. He's a junior designer there, and we'd stayed in touch casually on LinkedIn, occasionally commenting on each other's posts. I'd actually mentioned to him that I was interviewing when I first got the call, and he'd wished me luck. The next morning, I messaged him. Kept it casual, said I was curious about the company culture since I was still interested in opportunities there, and asked if he'd be willing to grab coffee and chat about his experience working there. He agreed, and we met that weekend at a coffee shop near his apartment. After some small talk, I eased into what I really wanted to know. So, I noticed a marketing coordinator position was recently filled. Maya Chen, she's actually my roommate. Small world, right? Jason's expression shifted slightly. Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, small world. You don't seem thrilled about it. He glanced around, then leaned in slightly. Look, I probably shouldn't talk about internal stuff, but since you interviewed here and you live with her, there's been some drama around that hire. My heart started pounding. What kind of drama? Well, I wasn't in the interview, but I heard things through the grapevine. Apparently, during her interview, she pitched a bunch of ideas for potential marketing campaigns. One of them was this whole sustainable fashion branding thing, rebranding concepts for eco-conscious companies, natural color palettes, organic typography. Ring any bells? I felt like I couldn't breathe. That was my presentation concept. The one I pitched in my interview for the design position. Jason nodded slowly. Yeah, that's what some people suspected. But it gets weirder. She also apparently talked about this approach for branding emerging tech companies, specifically AI startups. Using geometric patterns and gradient color systems to make cutting-edge technology feel approachable. That was mine too, I whispered. I showed her that project. She helped me practice my presentation. Damn, Jason sat back. So she basically took your ideas and pitched them as her own? Or at least as collaborative concepts she could facilitate? What do you mean, facilitate? From what I heard, she positioned herself as someone who could bridge the gap between design and marketing because she had close connections with talented designers. Specifically mentioned she lived with a designer who'd interviewed there and had all these innovative ideas about where the industry was heading. She framed it like she could bring these kinds of concepts to the table through her network and collaboration skills. I felt nauseous. She used me. She literally used my work and my ideas to get the job. It seems that way. And honestly, Emma, between you and me, there was some discussion about it in the design team. A couple of people noted that the concepts she described sounded really similar to your presentation. But marketing is a different department, and she technically didn't claim she designed them herself, just that she knew about these trends and could contribute that kind of thinking. It was ambiguous enough that nobody could really call it out. Did this have anything to do with why I didn't get the design position? He looked uncomfortable. I don't think so, not directly. But there was definitely some weird energy about the whole thing. Like, two people from the same apartment applying for different roles at the same time, and one of them ends up pitching ideas that sound a lot like the other's work. It just left a strange impression. I went home from that coffee feeling like my entire world had shifted. Everything Maya had done, the support, the help with interview prep, the detailed questions about my concepts, it had all been a calculated move to steal my ideas and use them for her own benefit. When I got back to the apartment, she was in the kitchen making lunch. Hey, she said casually, not looking up from her sandwich. Where'd you go? Coffee with a friend. Cool. Listen, I've been meaning to ask. I need to move out at the end of the month. The new job pays better, and I found a place closer to the design co-office. Just wanted to give you a heads up so you can find a new roommate. The audacity. She was just going to move on with her life, take her stolen opportunity, and leave like nothing had happened. I know what you did, I said quietly. She finally looked at me. What are you talking about? I talked to someone who works there. You pitched my ideas in your interview. The sustainable fashion branding, the tech startup approach, those were concepts from my presentation. The presentation you helped me practice. Her face went pale, then red. That's not I didn't steal anything. Those are just trends in the industry. Multiple people can have similar ideas. Don't lie to me, Maya. You took detailed concepts I developed, that I showed you in confidence while preparing for my interview, and you pitched them as your own thinking. You used my work to get that job. I never said I designed anything. She shot back. I talked about marketing approaches and collaborative possibilities. That's completely different from claiming I did design work. You know exactly what you did. You manipulated the situation. You asked me all those questions, had me walk you through my entire presentation, and then you took that information and used it to make yourself look innovative and connected in your interview. You're being ridiculous. This is just you being bitter that I got a job there and you didn't. You're jealous. I'm not jealous, I'm furious. You betrayed me. I trusted you, I was excited to share this opportunity with you, and you weaponized all of that against me. She slammed her hand on the counter. You didn't get the job, Emma. It's not like I stole it from you. You were rejected before I even got hired. This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. You used my work, my ideas, my preparation to advance your own career. And you did it while pretending to be my friend and support me. We stood there staring at each other, and I realized that this friendship, this roommate relationship that I'd thought was solid, had been a complete illusion. Or at least, it had become one. I want you out sooner than the end of the month, I said coldly. I'll pay the full rent myself until I find someone new. I don't want you here. Fine, she spat. I don't want to live with someone who can't be happy for my success anyway. She moved out that week, crashing on a friend's couch until her new lease started. The apartment felt empty and quiet, but I was relieved she was gone. But I couldn't let it go. The more I thought about what she'd done, the angrier I got. She'd sabotaged my opportunity, maybe not directly, but she'd certainly benefited from undermining me. And she was just going to get away with it, starting her new job built on stolen concepts while I went back to designing mattress ads. I spent a few days wrestling with what to do. Part of me wanted to just move on, write it off as a painful lesson about trusting people. But another part of me, the part that had worked so hard, that had put my heart into those concepts, that had been betrayed by someone I'd considered a friend, wanted justice. Finally, I made a decision. I drafted an email to Jason, asking if he could put me in touch with someone in HR or leadership who might want to know about the situation. He hesitated, saying he didn't want to get in the middle of drama, but eventually gave me the email address of the HR director, warning me to be professional about it. I spent hours crafting that email. I didn't want to sound bitter or petty. I wanted to sound professional, factual, and concerned about ethical hiring practices. Here's what I sent. Dear HR Director, my name is Emma Rodriguez, and I interviewed for the Senior Visual Designer position at Design Co. approximately 6 weeks ago. I'm reaching out regarding a matter that I believe speaks to the integrity of your hiring process and workplace culture. I recently learned that Maya Chen, who was hired as a marketing coordinator around the same time, is my former roommate. During my interview preparation, Maya assisted me and was present for practice presentations of my concepts. I have since learned that during her interview with Design Co., she presented ideas that were substantially similar to original concepts I had developed and shared with her in confidence. I want to be clear that I'm not alleging Maya claimed to have designed these concepts herself. However, I believe she leveraged detailed knowledge of my proprietary work to present herself as someone with innovative marketing insights and valuable design connections, without disclosing that these ideas originated from my interview preparation. Specifically, I'm referring to a comprehensive sustainable fashion rebranding approach, including specific color theory based on natural dyes and typography direction. A visual identity system for emerging tech companies using geometric patterns and gradient systems to convey approachability. I have attached timestamped files showing the development of these concepts prior to Maya's interview date, including original sketches, mood boards, and presentation notes. I'm not writing this to cause problems for anyone or to relitigate my own interview outcome. However, I felt you should be aware that a new hire may have used ethically questionable methods to secure her position. This concerns me both as someone who was personally affected and as someone who cares about integrity in our industry. I'm happy to discuss this further if you have questions. Best regards, Emma Rodriguez. I attached PDF files of my original concept development, dated sketches, mood boards, presentation notes, even screenshots of conversations with other design friends where I discussed these ideas before my interview. Everything was timestamped to prove I'd developed these concepts before Maya's interview could have taken place. I stared at that draft email for about an hour before finally, with shaking hands, clicking send. For 3 days, I heard nothing. I started to think maybe they'd just ignored it, written me off as a disgruntled rejected applicant making trouble. Then, on day 4, I got a response from the HR director requesting a phone call. We scheduled it for the next morning. The conversation was professional but thorough. She asked me detailed questions about my timeline, about Maya's involvement in my interview prep, about the specific concepts I developed. She asked if I had any proof beyond the timestamps. Had anyone else seen my work before Maya's interview? I told her yes, I'd shown my college friend who's also a designer, and I'd posted some early development work on my private Instagram. She asked if I'd be willing to provide contact information for verification. I said yes to everything. If they wanted to investigate this thoroughly, I was ready to cooperate fully. A week later, I got a text from Maya. The first communication we'd had since she moved out. What the fuck did you do? I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. They called me in for a meeting. They asked me about my interview process and how I developed my ideas. I know you said something to them. How could you try to sabotage my career like this? Still didn't respond. Then my phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. She left a 3-minute message calling me every name in the book, saying I was a vindictive psycho who couldn't handle her success, that I was trying to ruin her life because I was bitter about not getting hired, that she'd never done anything to me and I was manufacturing drama out of thin air. I saved the voicemail. The irony of her saying she'd never done anything to me was almost funny. A few days later, I heard through Jason, who heard through the office grapevine, that Maya had been called in for a meeting with HR and her supervisor. They'd confronted her with my evidence and asked her to explain the similarities between her interview talking points and my documented concept development. Apparently, she tried to argue that these were just industry trends everyone was talking about, that the similarities were coincidental. But then they'd asked her why she never disclosed during her interview that her roommate had recently interviewed for a design position at the same company. Why she hadn't mentioned that she'd helped that roommate prepare and had seen detailed presentations. She apparently didn't have a good answer for that. The company put her on a 90-day probationary period. She wasn't fired, but she was being closely monitored, and there was apparently a note in her file about ethical concerns regarding her interview conduct. Any future advancement at the company would be heavily scrutinized. When I heard this, I felt complicated. Part of me felt vindicated. She'd done something wrong, and there were consequences. But part of me felt guilty. I'd potentially damaged someone's career, someone I'd once considered a friend. Was I wrong to do that? Should I have just let it go? Maya didn't see it as complicated at all. She saw it as warfare. She started posting on social media. Nothing that named me directly, she was smart enough to avoid that, but lots of vague posts about toxic people who can't handle other people's success, and friends who stab you in the back when you're thriving. Her friends started liking and commenting with supportive messages. Then some of our mutual friends started reaching out to me. The messages ranged from concerned to accusatory. From Jessica, a girl we'd both hung out with. Hey, I heard you reported Maya to her job? That seems really harsh. I know you were upset about not getting hired there, but trying to get her in trouble seems like you're taking it too far. From Marcus, someone from Maya's work friend group who I'd met a few times. I don't know the whole story, but Maya is really upset. She's saying you tried to sabotage her career because you were jealous. That doesn't sound like something you'd do, but I wanted to hear your side. From Allison, someone I'd actually known longer than Maya. Emma, what's going on? Maya is telling people you made up lies about her to her employer. Did something happen between you two? I didn't know how to respond to these messages. The truth was complicated, and Maya had gotten her side of the story out first. In her version, she was the victim, the successful friend being torn down by a jealous roommate who couldn't handle not getting hired. I tried explaining to a few people what had actually happened. I told Allison the whole story, how Maya had helped me prep, how she'd seen my concepts, how she then used similar ideas in her own interview without telling me she was applying, how she'd never disclosed any of this to me or to the company. Allison's response was lukewarm. I mean, I get why you're upset. But did you really need to report her to her job? That seems like a lot. She didn't technically steal your designs. She works in marketing, not design. Maybe she just thought the ideas were good industry insights. She used my work to make herself look good in an interview and never told me she was even applying there, I said. But you didn't get the job anyway, right? So it's not like she stole it from you. I just think maybe you could have talked to her about it instead of going to her employer. I did try to talk to her. She called me jealous and bitter. I don't know, Em. This whole thing just seems messy. Maybe you should both just move on. That conversation made me feel worse, not better. Was I wrong? Had I taken it too far? I talked to my best friend from college, Sophie, who knew me better than anyone. She'd been hearing about the situation from the beginning. Let me get this straight, Sophie said. She helped you prepare for your dream job interview, saw all your work, asked detailed questions about your concepts, then secretly applied to the same company and used similar ideas to get herself hired, all without ever telling you she was applying there. Then when you confronted her, she called you jealous instead of apologizing. And you're wondering if you did something wrong? Well, when you put it that way, Emma, she betrayed your trust and used you. What you did was hold her accountable for unethical behavior. If she'd been honest from the start, if she'd said, hey, I know you interviewed there, I'm thinking of applying too, would that be weird? This would be a totally different situation. But she snuck around and used information you shared with her in confidence. That's not okay, but I potentially damaged her career. She damaged her own career by being shady. You just made sure the company knew the truth. There's a difference between being vindictive and being truthful about something that actually happened. Sophie's words helped, but I still felt uncertain. The court of public opinion in our friend group was mixed. Some people thought I was justified. Others thought I'd overreacted. A few people stopped talking to me altogether, deciding they didn't want to be involved in the drama. Maya's social media campaign continued. She posted a quote about rising above people who try to bring you down, with a photo of herself looking contemplative and empowered. Got hundreds of likes. Posted another one about real friends celebrating your wins instead of trying to diminish them. More likes, more supportive comments from people who didn't know the full story. I stayed silent on social media. Didn't engage, didn't post my side, didn't try to defend myself publicly. But privately, it was eating at me. Was I the villain in this story? Had I ruined someone's career over jealousy disguised as principle? Then, about a month after the whole thing exploded, I got an unexpected message. It was from the creative director at Design Co., the same person who'd interviewed me originally. Hi Emma, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to reach out personally regarding the situation with Maya Chen. After the concerns you raised, we did a thorough review of both interview processes. I want you to know that your decision to bring this to our attention was appreciated, even though I'm sure it was difficult. We take integrity very seriously here, and the lack of disclosure during Maya's interview about her access to another candidate's proprietary concepts was concerning. You handled this in a professional manner, and I wanted you to know that. Additionally, I wanted to let you know that we're opening another senior visual designer position in the next quarter. Based on your original interview and portfolio, we'd love to have you apply again if you're still interested. While I can't make any promises about the outcome, I can say that your professionalism throughout this situation has been noted. Please let me know if you'd be interested in discussing this further. I read that email 5 times. They were giving me another chance. Not because of the drama with Maya, but despite it. Because they respected how I'd handled it. I responded immediately, thanking her and expressing continued interest. 2 weeks later, I had my second interview, this time, a panel interview with the whole design team. They asked tougher questions, pushed me harder on my concepts, really dug into my design philosophy. It was intense, and I nailed it. 3 days after that, I got the offer. Senior Visual Designer at Design Co. Better title than the original position, slightly better pay. My dream job. When I posted about it on LinkedIn, professionally, no drama, just excited to announce I'm joining the design team at Design Co., the reaction was interesting. Lots of congratulations from industry connections and genuine friends. Radio silence from Maya and the friend group members who'd sided with her. A few awkward, congrats but messages from people in the middle who seemed confused about how this had all worked out. The best message came from Sophie. Karma is real and you deserve this. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. I start the new job next month. I found a new roommate through a friend of a friend, someone with no connection to my work or industry, which feels safer. The apartment is quiet again, but in a peaceful way now instead of an angry way. As for Maya, I heard through Jason that she's still at Design Co., still on probation, keeping her head down. We haven't spoken since that series of angry texts. I don't think we ever will again. Looking back now, I know I did the right thing. Not because of how it turned out, not because I ended up getting a job there anyway, but because she did something ethically wrong and deserved to be held accountable. She betrayed my trust, used my work, lied by omission, and then tried to gaslight me into thinking I was the problem when I called her out. I lost a roommate and a friend, but I gained clarity about what kind of people I want in my life. People who celebrate my wins instead of secretly trying to steal them. People who are honest instead of manipulative. People who own their mistakes instead of playing victim when they get caught. Some of our mutual friends still think I went too far. That I should have just moved on, found another opportunity, let Maya have her success without interfering. They think the professional consequences she faced were too harsh for what was essentially networking and using available information. But here's what I think. If you can't succeed on your own merit, if you have to steal other people's work and ideas to get ahead, then you don't deserve that success. And if someone calls you out for it, you don't get to play victim. Actions have consequences. So Reddit, I'll ask one final time. Am I the a-hole for exposing my roommate's lies after she tried to steal my job opportunity? I know my answer now. After I posted this, I sent it to a few of the mutual friends who'd been giving me grief about going too far. Specifically, I sent it to Allison and Jessica. I didn't add any commentary, just sent the link and said, this is the full story if you're interested in understanding what actually happened. Allison read it and called me immediately. She apologized, said she'd only heard Maya's side and had assumed there was exaggeration on both ends, but seeing the full timeline and understanding that Maya had never disclosed her connection to my interview made her realize how manipulative the whole thing was. She felt terrible for making me feel like I'd overreacted. We met for coffee last week and I think our friendship is going to be okay. Jessica had a different reaction. She sent me a long message saying that while she understood my perspective, she still thought reporting Maya to her employer was harsh, and that work stuff should stay between you and the company, not involve friends telling on each other. She said she wanted to stay neutral and hoped Maya and I could both move on. I haven't responded. I think that friendship is probably done, and I'm okay with that. Marcus reached out to say he'd talked to Maya about it and she'd finally admitted that she maybe should have told me she was applying, but didn't think it was a big deal. He said she's still upset with me, but he understands now why I did what I did. He's staying friends with both of us but not picking sides, which feels fair enough. As for Maya herself, she sent me one final message last week. No apology, but also no more attacks. Just, I hope you're happy with how everything turned out. I didn't respond. I start at Design Co. in 2 weeks and honestly, I've never been more excited about anything. The design team has already started including me in Slack channels and sending me mood boards to review. It feels surreal that this is actually happening. To everyone who said I did the right thing, thank you. To those who think I went too far, I respect your opinion, but I stand by my decision. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't the easy thing or the thing that makes everyone like you. But at the end of the day, I can sleep at night knowing I stood up for myself and didn't let someone get away with using me. And to anyone out there dealing with a similar situation where someone close to you betrays your trust, you're not wrong for being angry. You're not petty for wanting accountability. And you're not the a-hole for telling the truth about what someone did to you. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I needed to get this all out, and your responses helped more than you know. Final verdict, not the a-hole. Subscribe for more stories like this.